listen, I signed a contract to chase championships, not to run a daycare center. On January 13th, the Los Angeles Lakers didn't just drop a game to the Sacramento Kings, they completely unraveled. The scoreboard read 124 to 112. But forget the stats. That wasn't the headline. The real fireworks, they went off in the tunnel. While the crowd was still processing the loss, a storm was raging backstage. Sources say a massive argument erupted between Rich Paul and Austin Reaves' agent, allegedly sparked by whispers of a shocking trade proposal shipping Reaves out just to secure Bronny's spot in the lineup. That isn't a minor dispute. That is messing with a man's livelihood. Hey, if you want the truth the mainstream media hides, smash that like button and subscribe right now. If I am running the Lakers front office, I am calling the Memphis Grizzlies immediately for Jaren Jackson. Oh, absolutely. That is the dream scenario. But who exactly are you giving up in that deal? Maybe one specific package, right? Or you say, hold on, let's look at this strictly as a business decision. But the drama didn't end with the agents. Insiders report that LeBron James and JJ Redick had their own heated exchange in the hallways. The veterans, totally fed up, reportedly started pointing fingers at Bronny as the source of the friction. The energy in the locker room flipped instantly. One bad game, and suddenly the whole foundation felt shaky. But here is the kicker. People close to the team claim this entire meltdown started with a single text Bronny sent to the group chat, a message that reportedly sucked the air right out of the room. Before we reveal that text, let's look at the game itself. On paper, just another regular season L. Terrible defense, lazy rotations, blown coverages. The Lakers looked lost, and the Kings made them pay. But the moment those guys headed for the tunnel, you could feel the shift. Stiff body language, heads down, none of the usual post-game banter. It was icy. Usually, this kind of drama stays behind closed doors. But according to ESPN's Dave McMenamin and other eyewitnesses, the tension was impossible to hide. Reggie Berry, the power agent for Austin Reaves, was reportedly camped out in the tunnel, and he wasn't looking for a chat. Picture this. You are a fan sitting courtside, and you see two of the biggest agents in sports screaming at each other before the team even gets to the showers. That isn't normal. That is a crisis. And here is why the stakes are so high. Reaves is looking at a potential max extension worth near $200 million. That is generational wealth. That is legacy money. If you hear rumors that you are being traded just to manage a rookie's minutes, yeah, you are going to be furious. One loss sparked a tunnel brawl. One alleged text fractured the locker room. And suddenly, a rough night on the court looks like the beginning of the end. Make sure you're subscribed because this gets crazier. I can't believe it, man. They really traded me to the worst organization in NBA history. They are ready to move on. And honestly, it is probably the right move. At some point, you have to hand the keys over to Luka and Austin. That is the only way forward because you simply can't pay a guy $50 million a year to be your third option. It doesn't work. I really wanted Luka to be the face of Team LeBron back when he was a free agent. It just didn't work out. He is still with Nike under the Jordan brand, but I wanted him bad. The cash on the table is astronomical. We are talking franchise-altering money for Austin Reaves, and according to league whispers, Reaves' camp was livid. The accusation that Rich Paul was pulling strings to sabotage Reaves just to keep Bronny James in the rotation, that isn't just office politics. That is a full-blown war for the future of the team. Now, you might ask, how does Bronny even fit into this? Especially since Reaves has been battling injuries and hasn't been 100%. That is the twist. Insiders say this isn't about minutes in a single game. It is about the long game. Who is the priority? Who gets the spotlight? Who is the future? And when that much money is involved, the gloves come off. But the agents nearly throwing hands in the tunnel, that might have just been the appetizer. Because while security was intervening, the main event was reportedly happening behind the locker room doors. Word is, LeBron finally snapped. We are talking about a bombshell report concerning a hidden clause in JJ Redick's contract with the Los Angeles Lakers, a secret detail that Luka Dončić was allegedly never meant to see. But to really grasp why this situation went nuclear, we have to take it back to November 15th. The Lakers were up against the Milwaukee Bucks, and on paper, it looked like a blockbuster evening. Luka went absolutely scorched earth, dropping 41 points to seal the victory. The fans went wild, and the media hyped the stat line, but the box score hid a grim reality. You have to look at the rotation data. Bronny James got the start that night, logging 10 minutes of cardio with 0 points on 0 for 2 shooting. It wasn't just a quiet performance, it was a liability. When you are a title contender, every single possession is currency. You cannot afford dead weight. And this is where the critics started screaming. Luka is 26, smack in the middle of his prime, chasing MVP trophies. When you operate at that altitude, you demand a machine that hums perfectly around you. But that night, with the younger James on the floor, the team's efficiency ratings fell off a cliff. Even though they got the W, the analytics painted a brutal picture. The Lakers weren't dominating those minutes, they were barely hanging on. Insiders suggest that was the exact moment Redick snapped. The frustration on the sideline was palpable. He reportedly screamed at the rookie to just take the open shot before finally yanking him to the bench. That specific substitution, according to sources close to the organization, broke a sacred unwritten rule. This brings us to the rumor that is setting the internet on fire: LeBron allegedly pulled strings to get Redick hired with the specific mandate that Bronny would be developed in real time, alongside a superstar like Luka. We aren't talking garbage time, we are talking meaningful minutes, a long-term investment, trying to coexist with a win-now mandate. Before we get into the fallout, make sure to smash that like button. If you think politics ruins sports, it's a situation that sticks with you. You want your guy to succeed, to be the first option. If that trust fractured on November 15th, it explains why January 13th turned into absolute anarchy. When a development project crashes into championship aspirations, somebody is going to get hurt. And in this scenario, they didn't keep it behind closed doors. It was loud, public, and incredibly ugly. After that battle with the Bucks, the dynamic changed forever. JJ Redick watched Milwaukee repeatedly hunt Bronny on defense, and his coaching instincts took over. Developing talent is fine, but winning is the job. In that moment, he knew he couldn't babysit a prospect and close out a nail-biter simultaneously. It is a nightmare scenario for any head coach. Then came the interview that blew the roof off the arena. Luka sat down and didn't mince words. He said he is here to chase rings, not run a daycare. He explicitly stated that the G League exists for development. Savage, direct, and zero sugarcoating. That single quote reportedly tore the locker room in two. Even though LeBron James was sidelined with sciatica that night, sources claim he cornered Redick immediately after the game. It wasn't a calm chat, it was a confrontation. This was emotional and deeply protective. It stopped being about basketball strategy. It morphed into a civil war, Team Luka versus Team Clutch Sports, and the tension in Los Angeles was thick enough to cut with a knife. According to his bodios, to the rumor mill, super agent Rich Paul realized the ground was shifting. If Luka openly rejected the Tage Bronny plan, LeBron's power in the organization took a massive hit. Instead of making a desperate move like asking for a Bronny trade, which screams failure, Paul allegedly flipped the script. On January 13th, the same night Sacramento handed the Lakers a loss, Paul hopped on his Times Game Over Times podcast and started discussing Austin Reaves. But he wasn't praising him. He framed him as an asset. In the NBA, that word means expendable. He argued that if Los Angeles wanted to get Luka some real defensive help, they needed to look at packaging Reaves for a defensive monster like Jaren Jackson Jr. To the casual fan, that sounds like analysis. But insiders heard a threat. They saw it as a power play. The message was loud and clear: fall in line, or we move your best friend on the team. It is psychological warfare at the elite level. The goal wasn't to trade the rookie. It was to isolate Luka, to remind him that the roster around him is fluid, to show him that relationships are conditional, and that the real power brokers still hold the keys. That is allegedly what sparked the screaming match between Rich Paul and Reggie Berry in the tunnel. The Reaves camp wasn't about to let their client become a pawn in a front office power struggle. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel because this gets crazier. Luka's anger reportedly goes way deeper than rotations. Months ago, an incident occurred that completely destroyed his trust. It wasn't about minutes, it was about respect. And the root of it all is a single leaked message from the team group chat. The leak originated from Bronny. Word on the street is that text message blew the lid off internal secrets way, before the news was meant to break. To really grasp the impact, we have to travel back to February 1st, 2025, the day the Luka for Anthony Davis swap became official. This wasn't supposed to be a messy transition. Insider reports claim the organization planned to tell the roster face-to-face, keeping it in-house and respectful. But the internet moves faster. Shams Charania tweeted the scoop, and allegedly, Bronny caught wind of it immediately. Instead of waiting for the suits to address the team, rumor has it he screenshot that tweet and dropped it directly into the group message thread. That isn't just sharing headlines, that is shattering the code of conduct. In a locker room environment predicated on seniority and trust, that kind of timing is lethal. Once you fracture that foundation, it is nearly impossible to repair. That explains why the tunnel scuffle in January was deeper than a single defeat. It was the eruption of months filled with power plays and silent grudges. Before we dig deeper, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next update. If you are only looking at the stat sheet, you are blind to the real drama. That ignored handshake wasn't a coincidence. That was a calculated warning. If you have watched LeBron James for even 5 minutes, you understand his psyche. He refuses to be the sidekick. And last season, for the first time in over 2 decades, the atmosphere surrounding the Los Angeles Lakers didn't just shift, it completely imploded. You even had Draymond Green transforming into an unofficial bodyguard online, attacking Stephen A. Smith on his show. Let's look at the analytics, because math doesn't lie. LeBron's usage rate plummeted to roughly 28%. For a standard player, that is solid. For the King, that is a public demotion. It is the hoops equivalent of management saying, you are not driving the bus anymore. For a legend who built a legacy on control, that cuts to the bone. Rather than gracefully handing over the keys to a 26-year-old phenom, the narrative turned sour. Suddenly, every post-game media session felt like a PR campaign. LeBron took the mic preaching about how much he was sacrificing, how he was adapting, and how he was shrinking his role for the greater good. It stopped sounding like leadership and started feeling like a credit tour. The hidden message was obvious. Luka is dropping 33 a night only because I am letting him. That is the toxic vibe causing the friction. By the way, hit that like button if you think the ego clash was inevitable. That narrative is dangerous when the team is divided. Then came the soundbite that poured gasoline on the fire. Following friction with coach JJ Redick, LeBron went on ESPN and delivered this dagger. If we are relying on a 41-year-old to be our defensive stopper, we are in trouble. That wasn't an offhand remark. That was a precision strike. When you say that to the world while Luka is running the offense and playing massive minutes, it hits like an insult. It sounds like you are attacking the hustle of an MVP caliber teammate while the red light is on. That is not accidental. That is calculated warfare. Now, here is the awkward reality. During that same run, Bronny's defensive rating was sitting at a dismal 120. That isn't bad. That is a liability. He was barely on the floor, maybe 7 or 8 minutes, and offenses were hunting him relentlessly. However, the media firestorm wasn't directed at him. It went straight to the top. Luka is clocking 38 minutes, shouldering the scoring burden, taking the heat, and still catching strays from the podium. That creates toxicity instantly, particularly when the accountability feels hypocritical. Then March 6th, 2025, rolled around in Madison Square Garden, and the dam broke. Stephen A. Smith had ripped into Bronny's game on First Take. Standard punditry may be harsh, but it is the business. During the Lakers versus Knicks showdown, LeBron marched over to him courtside in the middle of the game. Cameras caught the face-off. Words flew. Security tightened up. The vibe wasn't friendly banter. It was hostile. It felt incredibly personal. That interaction changed how the press operated overnight. Suddenly, analyzing Bronny didn't feel like sports talk. It felt dangerous. And when guys like Draymond Green began shielding the family on their podcasts, the separation became deafening. Fans saw family loyalty. The locker room saw a mafia protecting their own. Then came February 5th, the deadline. While rivals were loading up for a title run, the Lakers made a whisper of a trade. Gabe Vincent out, Luke Kennard in. On paper, sure. Spacing. But insiders knew they needed defense. Rumors regarding a blockbuster for Draymond Green were everywhere. Nothing happened. And for the Luka camp, it felt like management refused to get their guy some help. From that second, the doubts began. Is management playing favorites with the family timeline instead of going all in on building a beast around their new franchise cornerstone? If you are loving this breakdown, make sure to hit that like button right now. The reality check hit hard when the voting returns came back. For the first time in 23 seasons, LeBron James is not a starter. Let that reality settle in. The King, the face of the league for 2 decades, is coming off the bench. On the flip side, Luka did not just make the cut. He absolutely crushed the polls, racking up over 3.8 million votes to lead the pack. With the 2026 All-Star festivities taking over the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, look at the marketing. The billboards, the ads, it is all about the 26-year-old Slovenian. He is the main attraction now. This is not a polite passing of the torch. It is a hostile takeover on national television. Do not forget to subscribe for more updates like this. Imagine ruling the court for 20 plus years, only to watch your influence fade right in your own backyard. That hits different. That is pure emotion and massive pressure on a legacy. Throw in the locker room drama, the subtle digs in the press, and the trade rumors, plus those public spats and the all-star snub, and the writing is on the wall. We are not talking about a shooting slump here. This is a seismic shift in hierarchy. You are watching the crown change hands in real time, and in the NBA, when the balance of power tips, things get ugly fast.